YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Happy New Year to you all. Hope you've had a good time over Christmas and everything else, and holidays or whatever. Today, I've got a couple of interesting images to show you, and they're both satellite images taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, okay? And this is one of them, and this is the other. Now, these are both interesting. Now, I can't prove these are artificial structures, but they do look artificial, at least some of them do. And the first one I'll show you is this one. This is Arabia Terra, okay? What we have here in this image is what looks like a salt mine or something similar. And we've got a lot of very interesting terrain here. And you've got the scale here. This is a huge area, and is something like 5 kilometers in width, this image, okay? So we're looking at a very large area, and what we have up the top here are these cells, or what I would call ponds, okay? Now, I'm not saying these are all artificial, but some of them, this looks very interesting here. We've got a very interesting formation here, right? We've got what seems to be a river inlet or area here coming in. The river comes up here, up to here. You can follow it along. There's the riverbed there. And then we get to this area here, where we have what looks like a set of ponds similar to a salt mine or something like that, okay? And you can actually see the formation here. Now, this image has had its contrast turned up. I turned up the contrast to make it stand out more. I've got a clip of it in here as well. This is what it looks like raw, a bit pasty, but you can see all that there. It's all there. We've got this long line of going across here with these cells here coming down, right, in an interesting formation. We've got one going across that way. This comes down here. The riverbed is here. This is the riverbed coming along here, which feeds into it, right? So it's like a river inlet. Now, of course, a lot of this area was underwater. It was an ocean, a lot of this area, and there were lakes and ocean areas all over the place, and river inlets and things like that, okay? And a lot of this is water erosion. But what we're seeing here, I think, may be an actual salt mine. Let me just get rid of those for you. Now, basically, all you need to do is look at it. I mean, this has been enhanced more, so you've got 50% contrast added here. It says here how much contrast I've added. Oh, 100% contrast. Okay, so it's been cranked up a bit, not a ton. And you can see these strange rectangular cells or ponds, and some of them have got sort of diagonal parts coming across here, right? And then down here we've got this really interesting formation here with these cells here in a sort of strange formation. These look more natural because the shapes are natural, and then we've got a whole bunch of craters intermingled with all this stuff, some of which have got smaller craters inside them, like this one, and you can even see at the bottom here what looks like a meteor sitting there where it's hit this crater and formed another crater inside it. Got like a roundish oval shaped object in there, okay? So we've got loads of these little craters, and then we have these cells here which look more natural, and we've got a whole bunch down here which are a bit more random, which look more natural, and normal shaped craters, okay? And we've got the riverbed on the left going up, and then we have at the top these long rectangular segments or cells or ponds, whatever you want to call them, and you can see where the sand has settled in them and filled them in. We've got these sand dunes here which have filled in these areas, so these were probably quite deep. And what I've done is I've drawn here some shapes for you just to point out what these are or what these look like. We've got a long rectangular one here, another one here, and there's also this diagonal going across with cells here. There's a rectangular one here. Now, of course, these are probably millions of years old, and at one point may have been a lot more symmetrical and a lot neater than this. What you have to bear in mind is that these are eroded over probably millions of years and filled in with sand, which tends to round everything off, okay? And make the features less angular than they would have been initially, perhaps. And I've got some images up here as well of some salt mines on Earth. Now, pay attention to this one. Now, I've shown some of these before. There are similar formations all over Mars in some areas that I've shown before. And you generally have these cells or ponds, right, on the shoreline next to a river inlet where there's salt water coming in, okay, and then they're trapped in these cells or ponds, and obviously the water evaporates. They're evaporation ponds, basically, and then it leaves the salt behind, which then can then be just removed and then cleaned or whatever and sold as table salt or whatever, okay? And often you'll have bunches of cells which are symmetrical, like this, rectangular shapes, but often you'll have diagonal ones as well in between the odd one, and they're not always the same size. They're sort of symmetrical, but they're not always exactly square or rectangular. They're often slightly odd shapes, like this one here. There's another one here of a salt mine. I don't know where this is, it doesn't say. It'd probably say if I went to the page. But you can see here that you've got these shapes here, okay, which are kind of organic, but they're artificial. They're organic, artificial shapes, okay? The shapes are literally cut into the landscape. The areas, an area is usually picked near where there's water inlet, or in this case, I think this is up in a mountainous area. But basically, the shapes generally follow the topography of the ground, and then they're cut into sort of manageable areas or ponds, which are easily dealt with and managed by people on the ground, okay? And this is generally the sort of shapes you get. And there are loads of examples of this, but generally on Earth, that's how we do it. And I would imagine the people on Mars would have had a similar way of doing things, because they had plenty of water, they had similar ground. Mars is a terrestrial planet, so the actual geology is very similar to Earth, okay? So things would work in a similar way. And often you'll see them like this. Now, I've shown some of these up on Mount Sharp that look like paddy fields. Some of them may have been little salt mines or salt cells or little ponds for collecting water. But they look very much like paddy fields as well up on Mount Sharp that I've shown before. And so some of these are huge on Earth, and they're perfectly symmetrical. But often you get some going some way, and you get a diagonal one going across here like this. See this diagonal one? And then we get a bunch of cells there, and then some smaller ones and longer ones. They're not always the same, but you can see that they are artificial by the way that they're laid out. What we're looking at here may well be a salt mine, because we've got these cells in a row with diagonal lines going across through them, like I just showed you on Earth, okay? There's a diagonal coming across there. I'll switch those off so that we can see those shapes in the ground, okay? You can see these rectangles and diagonals here. And there are crazy shapes all over this. Now, some of this may well be artificial, especially this area, okay? I've got a clip of it here in my graphics thing, processor, and there's just a straight clip from the raw image, okay, which is a bit pale. So all you need to do is darken it and add contrast, -10 brightness, contrast up 25. And you can really see these cell shapes now, okay, coming down with long straight parts and diagonals and cells here. We've got one there, we've got another rectangular one here, we've got that diagonal going across there, we've got that one there, we've got this here, okay? This looks to me like a salt mine, and it's situated in such an area which would be perfect for it, because we've got a river inlet coming straight into here, which would let the water in, which could be blocked off or dammed or whatever, and then these could just dry out over time, leaving the salt behind. So I'm not sure this is, but it looks very much like some kind of intelligent set of structures here, mining structures, either mining salt or something else perhaps. Could be mining almost anything. So we've got these cells which all join up, okay? So that was interesting, and I've got a colour clip of that which I've colourised, and you can really see these long rectangular shapes here now, and these cells. So that was an interesting one. I'm not 100% sure with this one, of course, because there are lots of similar holes in the ground, but it looks very symmetrical, some of this stuff, and doesn't look natural the way these are laid out in this pattern, okay? Then there's another image. Now, that was Arabia Terra. I've got another MRO image here. Now, this is Nanedi Valles, okay? And we have a large impact crater. We've got the scale here. It's thousands of meters across. It's probably about 4,000 meters across, okay? It's huge, so it's kilometers wide. This is massive, right? And this central area is very strange, and you can actually measure it on here. This part here, which is kind of like a cat shape with 2 points there, like it's almost square, but it has these almost like ear shapes on it here, right? And this is huge. Just the central part, that is about 1,500 meters across from there to there. If I zoom in, now this is very strange, and I don't think this is a mining area at all, this one, because there's no way in or out. This is a very deep crater. I would imagine it's about 1 kilometre or two, probably 2 kilometres deep. It's very deep, and we've got a very strange formation in the bottom of it, and there doesn't seem to be any logical way in or out, like a road or pathway coming into it down the side of the crater. So this is a complex impact crater. But what's very strange is when you darken this up. Now this has had contrast added to it already a bit. In fact, it says here I added a bit of 60% brightness and 65% contrast. Okay, so it's had the brightness turned down because this was very light. Now when you take a clip of this and darken it up, you notice this really strange object here in the middle, which is kind of like a wine bottle shape here. But we also have this perfect right angle just here. We've got this formation here, and it comes to an abrupt corner there, and we got this part coming down, and then we have this object which looks like it's buried deep in the ground, or structure of some sort. I don't know what it is. It may well be natural, but it's very strange, and it's shaped like a giant wine bottle, which is thousands of, well, it's something like 200 meters wide here, and it goes much more narrow there to about 50. Let's measure that end bit there. So it's like a giant bottle shape, just there, like a wine bottle. Now, could this be the object that caused this crater? And is it possible that this is actually not just some random meteor, okay, which would normally be a roundish or oblong sort of oval shape? Usually meteors are sort of fairly randomly meteor shaped, okay, like a potato shape, or a bit like Phobos. Often they look like that, where they have a sort of ovoid kind of shape to them. Now what sort of object would create an impact area like this? It's very, very strange. And because we have this right angled corner, then this object here, right? Now let me show you in here. I've got this here, and I've really darkened it up, and I've turned it around, right? Now you can see that we've got an almost square area here, right? Almost perfectly square. Then we have this, what I'm calling an object, okay, which is the shape of a giant wine bottle, which is very strange, right? It seems to come to there like that. Let's do that again. It comes in a bit more narrow than that, like that actually, okay? Now, is it possible? No, I'm just theorising here. Is it possible that this is actually not a meteor, and it's some other kind of object that fell into this crater or caused the crater? Is it possible this is some kind of very, very large vessel of some sort? Is that possible? I mean, it's all covered in sand, and this is all buried in we got complex dunes here. We've got these lovely dunes here, right? Loads of them, right? So obviously this is all filled in, right? Let's go back to the satellite image. Now, what I might do is I'll do another version of this and really darken it up for you, because it's quite pale, and the shapes don't really stand out until you crank the contrast up really high. I've cranked it up a bit here, but I should have done it a bit more. So what I might do is do another version of this and then really crank it up so that these shapes stand out more, because you can see this giant object here with a very strange impact area with a right-angled part there, and then we have a normal looking impact crater around it, and you can see all the striations there where it was blown outwards, okay, which is cool. But on the edge of it here, we have a little crater on the edge, which is almost square, just there. Very strange, right? And then up here, I was looking at that and I thought, hang on a minute, what's up here? We got this formation here, which looks kind of natural, but almost sort of square here. Probably natural, okay. But then there's this formation just here. Now you can see a row of ghosted out, or what I would call eroded foundations, okay. Here in a row we have 1, 2, 3 in a row, 1, 2, 3, just there, okay. Symmetrical dark patches there. We got one here, and one here, with a straight line going across there, down, which is almost parallel with the edge of the image here. This is orientated north, okay? So that's pointing almost due north. And we got these cell areas, okay, on the edge of this crater area here, on this ridge. Now that doesn't look much until you darken it. And when you darken it up, it looks quite unbelievable. Here it is, okay? That's the area we're looking at. Right, this is a large image, so you'll have to bear with me. We've got, now this looks quite vague, but you can see these dark patches. We've got one here, a square one, another square one, and another they're rectangles. 1, 2, 3 dark rectangles, and we've got another rectangle here, another one here, and another one here, with quite a vague but visible line coming straight down here, like this. And we've got a cell here, or rectangle here, we got another rectangle here, and we got another one here, all in a row with internal rectangles here, okay? This looks like the remnants, the eroded remnants of a structure, and it probably comes to here like that, and we got other parts going off here which are all kind of broken up and eroded, okay, like this. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Now, it's difficult to see in the actual image here, but you can see those cell shapes or rectangular eroded foundations, okay? You can see them there. And all you have to do is take a clip of that and add loads of contrast, like I've done. And I've got some other clips of it here. I've turned it round, I've flipped it to the left 90 degrees, and you can see those shapes there. You can see the line, and you can see these rectangular dark patches. Now this is exactly the sort of thing you would see if you were looking at somewhere like Egypt or somewhere like that from space, okay? This is exactly the sort of formations you would look for if you were looking for pyramids or structures buried in the sand in the desert or something like that. This is exactly what you look for, rectangles and formations of rectangles. And that's exactly what we have here. We've got the remnants of a set of structures that came right along here on the edge of this kind of ridge, okay? And that's what they look like, okay? So there were buildings here at one point, and all we're seeing is the remnants of the foundations. The top parts of the buildings have been completely blown away and removed, and it's filled in with sand and it's eroded. So it's all kind of softened the edges, and we've got sort of rounded edges to a lot of this stuff where it's been eroded by the wind, and it's filled in with lots of sand and dust that's filled in the area, like we have with this crater here. But this is just insane, this thing, because the shape of it, this actual whole thing is almost square, and then we have a right angle here, right? And then we have the bottle-shaped artifact or vessel. I'm calling it a vessel because it's shaped like a vessel. You don't get meteors that shape, right? Could it be a crashed ship? Could it be some kind of terraforming vessel where it was like a drone ship that was sent here and designed to crash into the surface, releasing loads of bio information into the atmosphere? Who knows? It's very strange, and I don't quite understand what it is, but it looks very, very strange indeed. To have a crater this shape within another crater, a formation like this, is extremely unusual. And I would say the fact that we have a formation here as well, and then we have this almost square inner area with a right angle here, almost perfect right angle just there, you can see it there, just here. And then this object, which is buried, it's all kind of buried and filled in. There's probably been landslides and all sorts going on here, and probably millions of years of sand and dust have landed in here as well. And but it doesn't look like an intelligent built structure, because you would expect there to be some kind of road going in there to get in and out. Probably down this side here, but there doesn't seem to be one from what I can tell. You can see the edge of the crater, and this is really, really huge and really deep. And if we measure it, I mean, it's a whole kilometre across. In fact, it's about 1.5 if you could do it diagonally. So it's absolutely huge. So this object here itself is something like it's about 600 meters long, this vessel-shaped thing, okay, in the ground. What the hell is that all about? So I'll put clips of all this coming up in a minute. I'll take some further back clips as well. I've got a whole bunch of them here for you to have a look at, and really crazy stuff. And the thing is, on its own, you think, yeah, okay, maybe that's natural, but when you put it up against the things that are nearby, like this area here, on the ridge to the north, which has these rectangular cells on it, then you've got to start asking questions about what this actually is, what we're looking at here. And of course, then we have the possible salt mine area as well to look at. Very interesting areas these are, and you could look at this stuff for hours and hours. There's loads of detail in here, and you can see tons of really interesting things going on the ground, with this river coming up here, this river inlet, and then these ponds or cells, which may have been salt mines or something else. If you have any ideas what else they might have been, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Always interested to hear what you've got to say. A lot of you come up with some great ideas in comments, so looking forward to that. And if you're not a member already, do come along to Mars Magazine and check this out. I put this one thing up last night, which I thought was funny. Yeah, excuse the language there, but I thought that was really funny. In fact, I remember looking into the ancient Babylonian and ancient sort of civilizations many years ago. When I was at college, I did a huge project on the Egypt and Babylon and all that stuff, and ancient Iraq and stuff like that, where these came from, these carvings of the strange deities carrying these little bags. Now, on some of the statues and carvings, relief carvings, you can actually see they carry this little bag. They've got a watch, okay, what looks like a wristwatch, and this isn't a very good image actually, there are much better ones. They've got a wristwatch there and a bag. Now on some of the carvings and relief carvings you can actually see there's a tube coming out of the bag which goes up around the waist, or around the waist area, and up the back into their possible helmet. So what I think these bags were rebreathing devices. Obviously these deities, whatever they were, or whoever they were probably from another planet and could not breathe our atmosphere or our air, and had to carry these little bags with them with a tube coming out so they could breathe. Okay, so it was like a little breathing device or a breathing apparatus. Now why they didn't just have this strapped on a belt, I don't know. Why they had to carry them, I don't know, but that is one explanation possibly for what these might be. Rebreathing devices or breathing apparatus. Who knows? I may do a video on that actually, because this is a mystery that people have been going on about for decades now. These little bags, little man bags that these deities carry. And you can see them in South America and Central America as well. Some of the ancient gods there were carrying these little bags as well. So it was something that was common to an ancient culture that predates all modern cultures, okay? It goes right back many thousands of years. So that was interesting. So do come along to Mars Magazine on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, okay? And check out some of the latest stories. There's some interesting stuff going on here. Carbonite sandcastle structures in calcium carbonate-rich Tanzanian volcano. So amazing pictures here. I mean, and some of the stuff we see on Mars is a bit like this, and it looks really organic and animalistic. But quite often it's just volcanic material, you know. So there we are. So thanks for watching, everybody. Clips coming up now.